Hi guys, I'm Kristen. Welcome and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. It is, of course, my June wrap-up, as you would have seen from the title, etc., while clicking on this video. But as of the date of filming this, it is actually early in the month of June. I have not yet filmed my April nor May wrap-ups, so I'm taking a little tip out of Cleo from Bemused Bookworm's repertoire of videos, and I'm actually just going to film my wrap-up over the course of the month, like in chunks as I finish books. I think that this way, first off, I love how Cleo does it. I think that the videos turn out so well, and because you are able to do the wrap-up like in the moment for that particular book when things are still fresh in your mind, it'll also like force me, hopefully, to actually do it as things go. So that is a thought process. We'll see how it goes. Thank you, Cleo, for the idea. I have been loving the way that you do these wrap-ups. So let's jump into it. It is, I don't know, like the 7th, maybe the 8th of June. I have finished one book, and I am also, I think, going to DNF another book as well. So the first one that I finished was Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. This was a highly anticipated book that I had for this year. I really loved A Part of Your World last year, and this is the companion, follow-up piece. It is the best friend of the main character, the female lead from that first book. It follows Brianna, who is an ER doctor, and I think his name was Jacob or Jake. I'm so bad at names. I just finished this book. Anyway, new doctor comes to town, and Brianna is up for a promotion, which she's the only one running for this new job, and her boss, who's the one retiring and it's his job that's going to be taking it over, says that he's actually going to hold off on the vote for this promotion position because he wants to give everyone a chance to get to know this new guy as well, and that obviously doesn't look very good, but it creates a bit of a miscommunication and misunderstanding right out of the gate between the two characters, as she obviously thinks that he's moved here and has some sort of leg in plan with her current boss to get her new job. She's also dealing with a sick brother, and so she's got a lot going on. She's going through a divorce. The two then, Jacob or Jake, whatever his name is, the male lead, has pretty significant anxiety and social anxiety. So Brianna goes into their first meeting thinking that, because of this about this guy, and he doesn't handle the situation very well because he is uncomfortable and doesn't know what the right thing to say in the moment. So he writes a letter explaining himself, and the two end up writing letters back and forth to each other. I would say that the letter writing was actually one of my least favorite components of the book. I felt like they were really over-exaggerating the interest level of what was going on in the letters, when the letters were quite boring, I thought. So ultimately it led to me not really being invested or even really sold on the relationship until about the 40% mark, when this fake dating situation also swoops in. When they actually start interacting on a regular basis, you could see the chemistry that they had. I thought they had really great rapport in person. I thought the letter sucked. The mental health rep with Jacob's, I'm sorry if that's not his name, I'm just gonna keep saying it, with the male lead's anxiety was pretty good, as someone with a history of not social anxiety, but with generalized anxiety disorder as well. I thought that it was very, very good, but it was also very overwhelming to read because you're getting the onslaught of his automatic thought processes in the moment of things. And while that was very genuine and realistic, it is also a little bit overwhelming to read. So that was tough but good in that representation. The third act conflict is where I think a lot of people are going to fall off the boat on this one, where it is something that is a potential, number one, potential trigger of something that it talks about, so check out the content warnings for that. Two is that it's a surprise trope that, I feel like that gives it away, that a lot of people really hate. I don't know many people who like this inclusion in a romance book. I didn't love it. However, I felt that it made sense based on the particular traumatic experience of Brianna's past, and I understood why it had to happen for a full circle plot, personal growth thing. However, again, it's just not something people love in books. I don't love it in books. Overall, it just it wasn't what a part of your world gave to me. It did not quite live up to that level of amazingness. So that's where I landed on that one. The DNF is just my type. I'm forgetting the name of the author, so I'll put it up. And I don't remember when I put this on hold at the library, why I put this on hold at the library. I must have scrolled across it somehow and was like, yeah, okay. And I was like, I know that it was in a time when I was filling up my library with holds of being like, let's just throw a bunch of stuff on there and see what becomes available. It is one of those second chance romances where we're not doing flashbacks, which is good because sometimes that's too much, where it's like you're only seeing the development when they were like teenagers, because this, of course, is our high school sweethearts who broke up at the beginning of university, and he has come back. They're both writers, and he has showed up at her workplace, and they immediately somehow get thrown into this weird competition for a promotion kind of a thing. Now, I have never worked in the corporate world, and I can see how, like in like advertising or marketing, like stuff like that, I can see that it is possible, or like it wouldn't surprise me to believe that people would be like, hey, you and you, like, write up pitches, the best pitch gets this account. Like, I can see that as being a thing. But for the amount of romance books where two leads appear to be competing for a promotion is just a situation that I can't see as being something that happens in real life. Like, not like to win an account, but like to win a job, to win a new promotion based solely on like the outcome of this competition is just bananas to me. Is this something that really happens in the corporate world to the extent that it is used as a frequent trope in romance books? It can't be. And there's just no chemistry. They keep telling me that they have this great banter, and really it's just like kind of like snarky back and forth. And if they just left it at that, I'd be like, well, that's like, you know, there's like a little bit of like back and forth, but they just keep saying, like, they would have like a little conversation, and then the lead in her head would be like, oh, our banter is so amazing. And you're like, what? Why are you saying this? And I can't appreciate, I mean, I don't think it's great banter, but even if it was, I wouldn't be able to appreciate it because she keeps telling me what great banter it is. Yeah, so I was kind of reading it like just to keep reading it because I wasn't sure what I want to pick up. And I think I'm over halfway now, and I'm just like, I don't care about this at all. I like actively dislike it. There was like some sort of confession type thing that happened recently that just like, I felt like it came out of nowhere. I did buy it. Like, I think it was clear that someone was harboring certain feelings. It's just, I think it's just not great. I think it's just very low end of average, and it's not gripping me whatsoever. And I don't really buy into the relationship at all. So that's where we're at so far in June. I do have some other like fantasy stuff lined up for this month, so I do have to finish. I started reading it earlier in May, The Redemption in Indigo by Karen Lord, which is our checkout book for the month of May. So we're going to be doing the live show. It will already have happened by the time this is out, so I do have to finish Redemption in Indigo. I'm going to be reading Fourth Wing like everyone else did in May. I'm going to read it in June so that I can talk about it with my bookish friends as well. And there's some other stuff, so we will see as the month goes on what I get into. Okay, so it is June 14th. I am just having my morning tea. I've got some breakfast heating up, and I thought I would hop on and tell you about Fourth Wing because I just finished it, maybe not yesterday, maybe the day before. I finished Fourth Wing. What is there to say about Fourth Wing that hasn't already been said? You know, okay, I'm not gonna do like, this is not a critical analysis of Fourth Wing or anything like that, but if you haven't already picked it up, if you don't know if you're going to, if you're not sure, here's what I would know going into this. It's probably going to be similar to ACOTAR, like how you feel about it in the sense of, is that what you're looking for? Then this is a great book for you. It's going to be the perfect book for you if you are an ACOTAR reader. It's not actually like ACOTAR in any sense, more just that I feel like ACOTAR is a really good example of fantasy romance done really well, where there is a fantasy plot. There's a fantasy world that's been created. It is very consumable. While there is a plot, yes, that shapes, itself, the romantic element or the relationship is also a equal, if not greater, driving force to the plot. And I would say that that is the same here. When I originally heard about this book, like way before the hype blew up, it was on May anticipated release videos. I did not get the sense that this was going to be a romantic book at all. I was kind of picturing it as in more of that tough military college, have to fight to survive. I thought we were going to be getting lots of fighting and that kind of stuff. And I don't even know if there is a potential romantic love interest mentioned in the synopsis. And there absolutely should be, because that is a very significant element of this book. So that is what I would say. If you are unsure whether or not to read Fourth Wing, do you like ACOTAR and stuff like that? If so, go for it. That is what you should expect. Now, if I was to say other critiques, what's my overall opinion? I don't know, I thought it was very, very readable, very consumable. I enjoy ACOTAR. It was a lot less focused on the military college element than I feel like I had been led to believe. Do I think it's strange that it was never mentioned that they were getting combat skill training? Yes. Am I a little bit confused that the only element of the challenges that they were fighting off at each other was just hey, here's a chance to fight, winner takes it all sort of a thing, with no apparent feedback on technique or training or skill or whatever? Sure, that bothered me. But you know what? Not what the book is about. Let's say that. No one had mentioned that there is love triangle feel to this. It's not a love triangle in the sense that there's a very obvious romantic love interest, but it's a love triangle potential in that there is somebody else in the mix at the beginning, and it's a very classic iteration of a potential love triangle, even though we all know the person that it's going to be. But if you're oh, I hate love triangles, that ruins it for me. It's not a love triangle. It's just there's someone else who's not going to get with the girl, that's okay. So that is Fourth Wing. That's what I'll say. I think it was fine. I can actually understand the hype in the sense that there's a lot of hype around ACOTAR. That's died down considerably, but I think this is a very well done fantasy romance. And so I don't think it's the best thing ever, but I think it's an above average fantasy romance. I think this is a similar hype to what From Blood and Ash got at the time. Now, the rest of that series steadily changed, and there was a lot of critiques to be had about that first book of From Blood and Ash as well, in a very similar way. But something about the relationship, something about the angst and whatever was very consumable, and a lot of people picked it up and loved it. And this is similar. I don't think it deserves the crazy high rating that it has, but if people are enjoying it that much, then power to them. That's great. It was fine for me. Hi guys, today is June 25th and I finished 2 books yesterday that I can talk to you about today. So the first one that I finished yesterday was Redemption in Indigo by Karen Lord. This was the month of May. I said this so awkwardly already. This was the book checkout book club pick for the month of May. I finished it in June because we always do the live show on the off month, and without fail I consistently wait and push the book until the off month when we were doing the live show. So this is a Senegalese fable or folklore story following a main character, Pama, who is given this chaos stick. However, the guy who it was taken away from, or the spirit who it was taken away from, wants it back, and that is kind of how the story unfolds. So I think some important key features here to know is that it is a fable, or a very folklore element. It's not a retelling in the sense that it's a Beauty and the Beast retelling where it's novelized or a narrative retelling. It is an actual, it's written like a folklore story. And in fact, we have this storyteller who is telling you the story, and in the way that it would be an oral retelling of a fable. We're just gonna ignore Poppy in the background. It is what it is. Anyway, so it does have this narrator who is telling you the story in a very way that sounds like you're being like orally told a story. On that note, highly recommend the audio. Like you almost have to listen to the audio book on this one just because the narrator does such a fabulous job. It really plays into that you're being told this folklore story. I think it was really good. It is very short and it is very easy to, even though it's like a little bit slower paced, it is very easy to just listen to the whole thing or like go through it all at once. And I would recommend not doing that. I think that this is like best consumed in audio, 2-ish chapters at a time, 1 to 2 chapters at a time, so that you can sort of like slowly pace your way through it. And I think because it keeps some of the conversations a little bit superficial, or like I imagine in the way that like if you're being told this story, the meaning behind everything is like left for you to figure out, you the listener to figure out. So yeah, I think that the thematic elements will sink in a little bit better if you go through it a little bit slowly. It did feel like it had 2 distinct halves, where the first half is sort of setting up like Pama leaving her husband, and he kind of tracks her down and tries to convince her to come back, and it's just like chaos ensues as he shows his true colors kind of to the town, and it's like a little bit outrageous, the situations that he gets himself into. And then the second half is like after she's been given the chaos stick, and this, he doesn't really have a name, but it's the guy who, the zombie who was previously the owner of this chaos element, decides that he wants it back, and he finds her. And the second half is like, I don't want to spoil it because it didn't really go the way that I was expecting it to from that sense, but it's more like exploring chance and human choice in all of like in all of that with chaos. And there were some philosophical elements that could be that were brought up, but maybe not dissected. So that was the first book that I finished yesterday. We also had last night was the live for, wait, is today the 25th? Did I say that? It's the 26th. Yesterday, the 25th, was our live chat for the book Checkout Book Club. So I will link that discussion down below. But really, it was maybe not the best book club pick in that it didn't really lead to a lot of discussion. There wasn't really that much like back and forth. We weren't dissecting character moments or plot moments. It was more just like, did you like the way this was done? Did it work for you? So that's kind of, the conversation was a little bit light in that regards. But overall, I think everyone had a pretty good time with it. Then I finished Light from Uncommon Stars by Reika Aoki. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce that, so I apologize if it's not correct. And this is an Own Voices queer story with a trans main character who is a self-taught violinist. And she gets taken in by a very famous violin teacher. Oh my god, Poppy. She gets taken in by a very famous, or infamous perhaps is the better way of saying that, violin teacher, Shizuki Satomi, who is also referred to as the Queen of Hell. And Shizuki made a deal 49 years ago with a demon named Tremone Philippe. So we get both of their perspectives. We also get various perspectives of this family of aliens who are running a donut shop while having escaped like an ongoing war in their own home planet. Meanwhile, they're trying to both run a successful donut shop and fix a Stargate, whatever that is. And then we also follow Lucy or Lucia Matteo. I should know this, I just read it. Anyway, who is I don't remember the technical term, but someone who fixes violins, and her son, and we get perspectives there. We get odds and ends perspectives all over the place sort of thing, and it just kind of follows like the course of events over like the lead up to the end of Shizuki Satomi's 49 years while after she has taken on Katrina, our trans main character. Other than that, like those exact things, I really don't know how to describe this book. This is one of the weirder things that I have read, for sure. I listened to a mix of the, I'll say some like logistics things here to sort of help synthesize my thoughts, I guess. So I listened to a mix of the audio and the ebook. I will say it was a very good audiobook, though I didn't gel with it right out of the gate. It actually, like, I was like, oh, I'm not sure if I like that. But what it turned out to be is that, you know how some audiobooks, you can listen to them super fast paced, no problem, doesn't change anything. In fact, it's better. This is one where I almost always wanted it to be 1.2 or 1.5 max. It just felt better with the pauses, with like the subtle breaks in speech and tone and intonation, because of what we were all talking about constantly, which is just like music. Huge theme here. If you are a music buff, if you are a classical music buff, if you have classically trained or just really love and music and what it means and the role that it can play in your life or people's lives or an experience, you gotta check this book out, because that's just what it's about. It does have really great trans representation from what I have heard. I know that it is own voices, and I would say that there were some like pretty tough moments and significant moments in Katrina's storyline, and even in some of the other characters of like witnessing stuff like this, or like what Katrina was going through for the first time. Not what Katrina was going through for the first time, but them witnessing things like this happening for the first time. Just with like the extra things that Katrina had to consider or think about, the prejudice and outright hate that she had to deal with. Other than that though, like, I don't know what to say about this book. It was so weird and different. It is truly an experience just to like read and listen to it. Oh my god, you're so loud, Poppy. Okay, back to logistics, just so I can frame this in again a little bit. The perspective does shift within the moment and within a scene, a little bit abruptly in a way that might bother some people. GGK does this a lot too, so it didn't bother me. I'm generally okay with it. Sometimes it took a minute to be like, whose head is this in? But I would say that the author was generally pretty good about using some sort of qualifier at the beginning of a POV shift or a perspective change, so that you had a good understanding of who we were seeing the scene from. This was not a life-altering, world-altering favorite book of all time, but I'm pretty glad that I read it. It was outside of my comfort zone for sure, I originally had this on my option list for the book checkout book club, which is books that we think are going to push us outside of our comfort zones. So this one absolutely was. It is sci-fi speculative. I think you will never crave a donut more than when you are reading this book. The amount of discussions that we had about donuts because of this donut shop was just like a lot for me personally, being somewhere where donuts are not really a thing. I don't think there's anything else that I can say, because I'm not someone who's good at speaking about books that are more out there and that deal with more like theme and concept. Like, I don't know what the project of this book was, but it was intriguing for sure. And I'm glad that I read it. As I said, like this, it definitely had a lot of moments that made you think, especially about the trans experience. Glad that I read it. Not my favorite thing ever, but enjoyed the experience of what it was. And I think it is a very difficult book to talk about. There are only a few days left in the month. I have started Age of Myth, which is my Pick My Next winner for this month. And that was Pick My Next new fantasy series start. This is the Legends of the Empire, I believe is what the series is called, by Michael J. Sullivan. So I don't think I'm gonna be able to finish that by the end of the month. So I will leave it here for this month for the wrap up. Let me know what you thought of this new style of wrap ups. You're a monster. You're... And what your favorite book for June was. If you've read any of these books, I'd love to hear what you thought about them, and I will see you guys next time.